Gia Carangi was born on January 29, 1960, in a Philadelphia suburb to Joseph Carangi, an Italian-American father, and Kathleen Carangi née Adams, an American woman of Irish and Welsh descent. Her father owned a small chain of fast food restaurants where Gia worked part-time. Her mother raised her. When Gia was 11, her mother abandoned the family, leaving Gia neglected for years to come. At 17, Carangi moved to New York City, where she quickly achieved success as a model. Gia's brother, Michael Carangi, would later say that letting Gia go to New York alone was the family's biggest mistake. Gia's loved ones recall that she always wanted to be a model, certain that it was her calling. According to her family, Gia knew she could succeed in the modeling business. Therefore, the decision to move to New York was easy for her. However, Gia herself said, "I just never wanted to be a model, it was never my dream. I just kind of fell into it." Gia's mother visited her in New York as often as she could, sometimes only to tidy up her daughter's apartment. However, Gia spent most of her time alone. In New York, Gia came under the patronage of former model Wilhelmina Cooper, who owned the Wilhelmina modeling agency. For her first 3 months, Carangi took small assignments, but quickly became one of the most sought-after models of the time. Photographer Arthur L. Gort, with whom she worked during a Bloomingdale's photo shoot, introduced her to renowned photographers such as Francesco Scavullo, Marco Glaviano, and Richard Avedon, which marked the beginning of Carangi's supermodel career. She found the confines of her modeling career confining. She tried to pursue other interests outside of modeling, but couldn't find enough time in her busy schedule. Gia became famous not so much for her unconventional appearance, blondes were in demand in the modeling industry at the time, but primarily for her ability to portray a wide variety of characters. In October 1978, after a photo shoot for Vogue magazine, photographer Chris von Vanheinheim asked Carangi to take some nude photos. Makeup artist Sandy Linter also participated in the photo shoot at the photographer's request. The photographs of a nude Gia standing behind a wire mesh fence became some of the most scandalous of the time. By the end of the year, she had appeared in several magazines, including American Vogue. In 1979, over the course of 5 months, Gia appeared on the covers of British, French, and American Vogue, as well as twice on the cover of American Cosmopolitan. The second Cosmopolitan cover, where Carangi posed in a yellow Grecian-style swimsuit, was called the best of Gia's career. Carangi's figure was considered sensual, a contrast to the shy models of her time. Having become sufficiently famous, Gia could afford to turn down job offers she didn't like. Sometimes she turned down photo shoots simply because she didn't like the proposed hairstyle. At the height of her career, she also starred in the music video for Atomic by Blondie. Despite her success, Gia remained single, and her personal life was struggling. She had a small social circle: makeup artist Sandy Linter, models Julia Foster and Janice Dickinson, and a few acquaintances from Philadelphia. In her personal life, Carangi was known for her lesbian tendencies, which she never hid. Those close to her recall that Gia began showing an interest in girls as early as 14. However, she never had any interest in men. Gia tried to find love, but she felt that everyone who started relationships with her only wanted her for money and sex. Seeking a long-term relationship, Gia easily fell in love with people she had just met. She felt lonely and constantly needed someone to be with her. Gia's colleague and friend, model Julia Foster, recalled in an interview with the TV show True Hollywood Stories how Gia came to her house one night. It turned out that Gia simply wanted a hug. With her first significant earnings, Carangi became a regular at New York's most fashionable clubs. She especially frequented the legendary Studio 54, known for its free spirits. Gradually, Gia began using drugs. First, she took cocaine for relaxation. Then in the spring of 1980, after the death of her mentor, Wilhelmina Cooper, Carangi, trying to relieve stress, switched to heroin. Fatigued and exhausted by her drug addiction, Carangi enrolled in a rehabilitation program at a Philadelphia clinic for alcohol and drug addicts. That same winter, she began a relationship with Rochelle, a 20-year-old student who was using heroin even more severely. According to Michael Carangi, Rochelle once suggested he try drugs, but he declined. Under Rochelle's influence, Gia's drug addiction worsened. In the spring of 1981, Carangi was arrested for drunk driving. She was later caught trying to steal money from her mother's house. In June 1981, Gia left her mother's house and re-enrolled in a rehabilitation program. But her attempt at recovery was derailed by the news that her close friend, photographer Chris von Wangenheim, had died in a car accident. This became yet another trigger for Carangi to begin using drugs. She locked herself in the bathroom and spent several hours in a drug-induced delirium. In late 1981, Gia began struggling with drugs again. The emaciated Carangi began gaining weight. Gia was determined to recover and wanted to return to New York. In early 1982, Carangi posed for the cover of Cosmopolitan. According to photographer Francesco Scavullo, it would be her best cover. This cover also turned out to be Gia's last. In 1986, Gia came down with symptoms of pneumonia, and her mother immediately took her to the hospital. It turned out that Carangi had overdosed 3 times during her drug addiction. After years of drug use, a noticeable abscess developed on Gia's arm, and her back was covered in ulcers. After examination, she was diagnosed with AIDS. When Gia's condition worsened, she was transferred to a Philadelphia hospital. There, for several months, Gia had what she had dreamed of since childhood: her mother's constant attention. Kathleen Carangi did not allow anyone to enter her room or visit her daughter. Many simply did not know Carangi was seriously ill. One of those allowed to visit was Rob Fay. According to her family, her mother did everything to make Carangi's room feel like home. For a time, Gia's emotional state improved. In the hospital, she became religious and even hung an image of Jesus Christ on the door of her room. At one point, Gia conceived the idea of making a children's story about the dangers of drug addiction and the need to resist this temptation with all one's might. However, Gia was unable to carry out her plan as her physical condition deteriorated so rapidly. In October, 4 weeks before her death, Carangi was placed in a private room. Her body was covered in numerous ulcers. According to her mother, Gia felt her passing a few days before her death, and they had a frank conversation. As Rob Fay recalls, immediately before her death, Carangi's condition deteriorated so much that she could no longer speak. On November 18, 1986, Gia Carangi died. The disease severely affected her physical condition. In fact, Gia's body began to decompose while she was still alive. As paramedics were moving Gia's body onto a gurney to take it to the morgue, a section of skin from Gia's back simply fell off, source not specified, for 5,130 days. AIDS so disfigured Carangi's body that the funeral director recommended a closed casket burial. On November 21, 1986, relatives and friends were invited to Carangi's funeral service. She was buried in Feasterville, Pennsylvania. The fashion world remained unaware for a long time that the once famous supermodel had died. Most of Gia's acquaintances learned of her death only a year later. The funeral was extremely discreet and sparsely attended. The fact that Carangi had died of AIDS would have brought shame on her family. Gia Carangi became the first American female celebrity to die from AIDS.